Be prepared. 2026 isn't going to unfold the way people think it will. Most people believe this year is about growth, expansion, and collective evolution. That everyone rises together. That spiritual awakening is inclusive. But that's not how it actually works. Spiritually, 2026 is about separation. Not punishment, not exclusion. Separation. The universe is quietly sorting souls based on frequency. And if you're watching this, if something pulled you here, you're already on one side of that divide. And the side you're on will determine everything that happens next. Keep watching, because what I'm about to reveal explains exactly why some people are rising while others are repeating, and how to know which side you're truly on. The first thing you need to understand about 2026 is that the separation isn't coming. It's already happening, right now, this very moment. The universe doesn't wait for your readiness. It doesn't announce its plans. It simply begins sorting. And most people won't notice until it's too late. For the past few years, humanity has been moving through a collective pressure, a global recalibration. And that pressure forced everyone to choose, consciously or unconsciously, which direction they wanted to face. Some chose expansion. Others chose contraction. Some chose truth. Others chose comfort. And 2026 is the year those choices become visible. Not through drama, not through catastrophe, through distance. You'll notice that certain people who used to feel close now feel unreachable. Not because of conflict, not because of disagreement, but because your frequencies no longer match. And when frequencies diverge, connection becomes impossible, no matter how much history you share. But that's just the surface of it. There's a reason 2026 feels different, heavier, more definitive. And it's not your imagination. It's not stress. It's energetic finality. Every year carries its own frequency, its own lesson, its own challenge. But 2026 is what spiritually attuned souls call a sorting year. A year when the universe stops being patient and starts being precise. In previous years, you could drift. You could hesitate. You could delay your growth and still stay connected to people who weren't growing at your pace. But 2026 doesn't allow that anymore. This year, the energetic gap between those who are evolving and those who are resisting has widened to the point where coexistence becomes exhausting. You might feel it already. Conversations that used to flow easily now feel forced, strained, like you're speaking different languages. Spaces that used to feel comfortable now feel suffocating. People you used to enjoy now drain you in minutes. And you start wondering, what changed? But here's the truth. Nothing changed externally. Everything changed internally. Your frequency shifted. Your tolerance for low vibrational patterns dissolved. Your capacity to pretend you don't notice misalignment disappeared. And once that shift happens inside you, the external world has no choice but to rearrange itself to match. This isn't loss. This isn't failure. This is the universe honoring your evolution by removing what no longer fits. Think about it this way. If you're upgrading your operating system, old programs stop working. Not because they're bad, but because they're incompatible. That's what's happening in 2026. You're upgrading, and not everyone is coming with you. This isn't cruelty. It's clarity. The universe isn't punishing anyone. It's simply organizing reality so that each soul can move at the pace it chose. But there's something happening beneath this separation that most people completely overlook. One of the most misunderstood aspects of 2026 is the frequency split. And it's not what most people think. This isn't about good versus bad, light versus dark, spiritual versus non-spiritual. It's far more subtle than that. It's about momentum. There are two types of momentum in 2026: ascending momentum and plateaued momentum. Ascending momentum belongs to souls who are actively choosing growth, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's isolating, even when no one understands. They're the ones who keep asking deeper questions, who keep refining their truth, who keep releasing patterns that no longer serve them. They're not better than anyone else. They're simply moving. Plateaued momentum belongs to souls who have stopped asking questions, who have settled into a version of themselves that feels safe, predictable, and defended. They're not bad people. They're not unconscious. They've simply chosen comfort over expansion. And there's no judgment in that. But here's what creates the split. Ascending momentum and plateaued momentum cannot occupy the same relational space for long, because one is constantly shifting and the other is trying to stay still. And when you're moving forward, staying still feels like moving backward. You'll notice this in your relationships. People who once inspired you now feel stagnant, repetitive, stuck in loops they refuse to break. And it's not that they changed, it's that you kept moving and they didn't. And now the distance between where you are and where they are has become too wide to bridge with conversation alone. This is why so many spiritually attuned souls feel isolated in 2026. Not because they're being rejected, but because they're being recalibrated. The universe is removing everyone who would slow down your momentum, everyone who would pull you back into patterns you've already outgrown. This isn't punishment, this is protection. And once you understand that, the loneliness starts to feel different. It stops feeling like abandonment and starts feeling like preparation. But how do you know which side of the split you're on? That's where the signs come in. One of the clearest ways to know you're on the ascending side of the 2026 separation is by recognizing specific patterns that only happen to souls in active evolution. These aren't random, these aren't coincidences, these are confirmation signals. And if you're experiencing any of the following, you're not imagining it. You're moving. The first sign is sudden exhaustion that has no medical explanation. You're sleeping enough, you're eating well, but you feel drained, depleted, as if your body is working overtime on something you can't see. And it is. Your entire system is recalibrating to hold a higher frequency. And that process requires energy, massive amounts of energy. This isn't burnout, this is integration. The second sign is a growing intolerance for small talk, shallow interactions, and surface-level relationships. Conversations that used to feel fine now feel unbearable. You find yourself withdrawing from social situations not because you're antisocial, but because the energy exchange feels unequal. You give depth, they give pleasantries, and the mismatch drains you faster than anything else. This isn't judgment, this is discernment. Your system is protecting your energy by making misalignment uncomfortable. The third sign is vivid dreams, strange synchronicities, and heightened intuition. You're seeing numbers, repeating patterns, messages that feel too specific to be random. Your dreams feel prophetic. Your gut feelings are sharper, and your sense of knowing something before it happens has intensified. This isn't imagination. This is your spiritual senses activating at a level they've never reached before. The fourth sign is people from your past suddenly reaching out, or people in your present suddenly pulling away. With no warning, no explanation, just a shift. Someone you haven't thought about in years sends a message. Someone you trusted suddenly ghosts. This is divine sorting in real time. The universe is rearranging your relational field to match your new frequency. The fifth and most telling sign is that you feel different, but you can't explain it to anyone. You move through the world with more certainty. You speak with more clarity. You make decisions with more confidence. But when people ask what changed, you can't put it into words, because the shift didn't happen in your mind. It happened in your frequency. And frequency can't be explained. It can only be felt. These signs are not symptoms of struggle. They're proof of transformation. They're confirmation that you're on the side of the split that's rising. And once you recognize that, the next question becomes obvious. Why do some people react so strongly to your energy now? If certain people have started treating you differently in 2026, if their tone has shifted, if they've become cold, distant, or even hostile for no apparent reason, there's a spiritual explanation for that. And it has nothing to do with anything you did wrong. When you ascend in frequency, you become a mirror, not intentionally, not aggressively, but automatically. Your presence reflects back to people the parts of themselves they've been avoiding, the growth they've been delaying, the truth they've been suppressing. And most people don't like what they see. So instead of looking inward, they project outward. They decide you're the problem. You're too much, too intense, too different. But here's what's really happening. Your rising frequency is exposing their stagnation. And that exposure feels threatening. Not because you're judging them, but because their own spirit is reminding them that they're capable of more, and they're choosing not to pursue it. Think about it this way. If someone is sitting in a dim room and you walk in carrying light, they're going to feel the contrast. And if they've gotten comfortable in the dimness, your light won't feel inspiring. It'll feel intrusive. This is why ascending souls often experience sudden rejection, coldness, or conflict from people who used to be fine with them. It's not that you changed into someone worse, it's that you changed into someone clearer. And clarity exposes what comfort tries to hide. Some people will respond to your rising frequency with curiosity. They'll ask questions. They'll want to understand what shifted in you. But others will respond with resistance. They'll create distance. They'll minimize your growth. They'll try to remind you of who you used to be, so they don't have to face who they're still choosing to be. And here's the part that's hardest to accept. You can't fix that. You can't make someone comfortable with your evolution. You can't shrink yourself to ease their discomfort. Because the moment you do, you betray your own frequency. And the universe will simply bring you another version of the same test until you learn to hold your ground without apologizing for it. This isn't about being cold. It's not about being superior. It's about honoring the path you chose without letting other people's fear pull you off of it. And once you understand that, you stop taking their reactions personally. You stop trying to convince them. And you start trusting that the right people will meet you where you are. But not everyone will. And that brings us to the 3 types of people navigating 2026. Every soul in 2026 falls into one of 3 categories. 3 responses, 3 trajectories. And the category you fall into will determine not just your year, but the direction of your entire life moving forward. The first type is the resistors. These are souls who sense the shift happening around them, but refuse to participate in it. They feel the pressure, they notice the changes, but instead of adapting, they dig in. They cling to old patterns, old beliefs, old versions of themselves that no longer fit the reality they're standing in. Resistance sounds like this. Things were better before. I don't understand why everything has to change. Why can't people just stay the way they were? It's the energy of fighting the current instead of learning to swim with it. And here's what happens to resistors in 2026. They don't move forward. They don't move backward. They stay suspended in a loop, repeating the same lessons, facing the same challenges, wondering why life feels so hard when everyone around them seems to be progressing. Resistance doesn't stop the shift. It just delays the integration. And every delay comes with a cost. The second type is the followers. These are souls who are willing to grow, but only if someone else shows them how. They want the benefits of evolution without the discomfort of pioneering it. They wait for trends. They wait for validation. They wait for proof that it's safe to change before they take the first step. Following sounds like this. I'll do it when I see other people doing it. I just need someone to guide me. I'm not sure if I'm ready yet. It's the energy of conditional growth. Growth that only happens when the conditions feel perfect. And here's what happens to followers in 2026. They grow, but slowly. They evolve, but cautiously. And they often find themselves a step behind the momentum they're trying to catch. Because by the time they feel ready, the frequency has already shifted again. Following isn't wrong, but it's not the path of the chosen one. The third type is the pioneers. These are the souls who don't wait for permission, who don't need validation, who move when the inner knowing says move, even if no one else understands. They're the ones who leave relationships that no longer align, who walk away from careers that drain them, who speak truth even when it isolates them. Pioneering sounds like this. I don't know where this is leading, but I trust it. I can't explain this to anyone, but I know it's right. I'm done waiting for the perfect moment. It's the energy of trusting your frequency over your fear. And here's what happens to pioneers in 2026. They accelerate, opportunities find them, doors open. People who match their frequency appear. Because the universe responds fastest to those who move, without needing proof that the path is safe. So the question isn't whether you're spiritual. The question is, are you moving? If you're feeling the shift and adapting, you're pioneering. If you're feeling the shift and waiting, you're following. If you're feeling the shift and fighting it, you're resisting. And 2026 will show you very clearly which path you chose. Because this year doesn't reward intention. It rewards action. One of the questions spiritually attuned souls struggle with most is what happens to the people who don't ascend with them, the friends who stay stuck, the family members who refuse to grow, the partners who choose comfort over truth. And the answer isn't as dramatic as most people think. They don't disappear, they don't suffer, they don't get punished, they simply continue living in the reality they chose. But here's what changes. The connection between you and them dissolves. Not through conflict, not through confrontation, but through irrelevance. You stop thinking about them as often. They stop showing up in your awareness. And when you do interact, it feels neutral, polite, but empty. Because the energetic bond that once connected you has been severed. And once a frequency bond breaks, it can't be repaired by conversation alone. It can only be rebuilt if both people rise to meet each other at a new level. And most of the time, that doesn't happen. This is why chosen ones often describe feeling like they're living in a completely different world than the people they used to know. Because they are, not physically, but energetically. And energy determines experience. Two people can live in the same city, walk the same streets, breathe the same air, and be living in entirely different realities based on the frequency they're holding. The people who stay behind don't lose access to growth. They don't lose access to awakening. They simply lose access to you because you're no longer vibrating at a level where connection is possible. And that's not cruelty. That's physics. You can't force two frequencies to resonate when they're operating on different wavelengths. This is why letting go becomes easier in 2026. Not because you stop caring, but because you finally understand that caring doesn't mean staying. You can love someone and still release them. You can honor the role they played in your life and still walk a path they're not ready to follow. And the universe will support that release by making it feel less painful and more natural than you expected. But here's the part most people don't talk about. While those who stay behind continue their journey at their own pace, something is happening to you. Something powerful. If you're on the ascending side of the 2026 separation, you've likely noticed something strange. Time feels different. Not slower, not faster, just different. Things that used to take months now happen in weeks. Opportunities that used to require effort now appear effortlessly. Clarity that used to take years now arrives overnight. This isn't luck. This isn't coincidence. This is acceleration. When you align with your true frequency, the universe stops making you wait. It stops testing your patience. It starts responding to your readiness with immediate movement. And that movement creates momentum. Momentum that builds on itself until everything in your life starts shifting at once. You'll notice patterns like this. You think about someone and they message you within hours. You set an intention and synchronicities appear the next day. You make a decision and the path forward becomes instantly clear. This is what happens when resistance dissolves. When you stop fighting your frequency and start trusting it, the universe meets you with speed. But here's the thing about acceleration. It's not always comfortable, because when everything moves faster, you don't have time to overthink. You don't have time to doubt. You have to trust your instincts and move. And that requires a level of faith that most people aren't willing to hold. This is why chosen ones in 2026 often feel like they're living in fast forward while everyone else is stuck in slow motion. Because they are. Their timeline has shifted. Their reality has updated. And they're now operating under a completely different set of rules. Rules where trust is rewarded instantly, where alignment creates opportunity, and where movement generates more movement. If you're feeling this acceleration, don't fight it. Don't try to slow it down to match other people's pace, because the moment you do, you disrupt your own momentum. Let it move you. Let it surprise you. Let it take you places your logical mind wouldn't have chosen. Because this acceleration isn't random. It's taking you exactly where you need to be. One of the most isolating parts of being on the ascending side of 2026 is the inability to explain what you're experiencing to people who aren't experiencing it. You try to put it into words. You try to describe the shift, the clarity, the acceleration, the way everything suddenly makes sense in a way it never did before. But the words don't land. They either look at you with confusion or concern, or worse, dismissal. And you realize very quickly that some experiences can't be translated. They can only be lived. This isn't about intelligence. It's not about awareness. It's about frequency. If someone isn't holding the frequency you're holding, they can't perceive the reality you're perceiving. It's like trying to describe color to someone who's only ever seen in black and white. You can use all the right words, but they won't understand because they don't have the reference point. This is why chosen ones stop trying to convince people. They stop trying to prove what they know. They stop trying to bring people along who aren't ready to walk the path. Not because they're being elitist, but because they've learned that evolution can't be forced. It can only be chosen. And some people simply aren't choosing it yet. And that's okay. Your job isn't to wake people up. Your job is to stay awake, to keep moving, to keep trusting your inner knowing even when no one else validates it. Because the validation you need won't come from people. It'll come from the results, from the synchronicities, from the way your life starts rearranging itself in ways that prove you were right to trust what you felt. While 2026 is separating chosen ones from the collective, it's also guiding them towards something. A timeline, a reality, a version of life that most people will never experience because they're not willing to do what it takes to access it. This timeline isn't better than others. It's not more valuable, but it is different. It's the timeline where things align easily, where opportunities appear without force, where the right people show up at the right time, where clarity replaces confusion, and where peace replaces struggle, not because life becomes perfect, but because you become aligned, and alignment changes everything. On this timeline, you stop fighting reality. You stop trying to control outcomes. You stop needing to know every step before you take the first one. Instead, you move with trust, with flow, with the quiet knowing that whatever is meant for you won't miss you. And whatever isn't meant for you won't stick, no matter how hard you try to hold on to it. This timeline doesn't require you to be flawless. It doesn't require you to have everything figured out. It only requires that you stay true to your frequency, that you keep choosing alignment over comfort, truth over approval, growth over stagnation. And the moment you commit to that, the timeline commits to you. You'll start noticing that your life feels easier, not because your challenges disappear, but because you stop resisting them. You start seeing them as redirections instead of punishments, as refinements instead of failures. And that shift in perspective changes your entire experience of reality. The person who entered 2026 is not the same person who will exit it. And the person navigating the separation right now is not the same person who will emerge on the other side. Even if nothing external changes, even if your circumstances look identical, something inside you is shifting, permanently. You can feel it. A quiet knowing, a deeper clarity, a stronger sense of who you are and what you're no longer willing to tolerate. This shift doesn't announce itself loudly. It doesn't come with fanfare or validation. It happens in the small moments, in the choices you make when no one is watching, in the boundaries you hold when it would be easier to let them slide, in the truth you speak even when your voice shakes. And those moments, those quiet decisions, are what create the new version of you. The version that doesn't need external approval. The version that trusts its intuition over other people's opinions. The version that moves through the world with quiet confidence instead of loud performance. This version of you is unshakable, not because nothing affects you, but because you've learned that your worth isn't determined by who stays or who leaves. Your path isn't invalidated by who understands or who doesn't. Your truth doesn't become less true just because someone else refuses to see it. 2026 isn't separating you from people to punish you. It's separating you from people to prepare you. Because the next phase of your life requires a level of clarity, strength, and self-trust that you couldn't have accessed while still trying to maintain connections that no longer fit. The separation is the preparation, and the version of you that's emerging is the one you've been becoming all along. The universe is simply making sure you're ready for everything it's about to show you. If you're still watching, I'd like to thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed the content and want to see more, please consider clicking the subscribe button. Your support is very appreciated. Feel free to share your experiences or thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, take care and subscribe for more insightful content.